And let's talk about the importance of queuing, because I think actually the passing of Queen Elizabeth actually shows that the concept of a queue is actually kind of fundamental to British culture. Like it symbolizes, it's like the British version of the trolley question, as in, do you return the lone supermarket trolley, or do you allow it to, just fall into the bushes? And it symbolizes, are you the sort of person who upholds order and respects your own civilization, right?
Well, yeah, it's a sign of, like you say, respect to each other as well. You understand that if you don't put that trolley away, somebody else is going to have to, or it's just going to be left there and made a mess.
Exactly, and to Brits, the queue is very much the same thing. It's a symbol of fairness. It is a symbol of order. It is the right way things should be done. And so the queue to see the Queen lying in state became something of an attraction of its own. Now, I mean, I know that sounds funny, but this is genuinely quite totemic, actually, and people seem to be taking quite a lot of pride in the queue, which I think is really sweet. And so basically, you may remember on Friday that the queue had got to something like 5 miles long and 14 hours in duration. And so they closed the queue, which is not something I realised that they could do. And so, of course, people began queuing for the queue. Which,
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, how can you stop them? If you can go to the next one, you see the people just, it was described, of course, as the most British thing ever, which, I mean, it is.
Proud to say it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very proud of that. And so one person on Twitter, I think, had a great take on this, Louise. She says, "We've reached peak Britishness. You can queue for a full day, and you can watch news all day about said queue. You can broadcast self-righteous opinions about the queue, and you can track the queue 24/7 online. If we add weather updates in each stage, we've completed it, mate." And it's like, that is actually completely true. And the thing is, I was watching like the queue tracker, and at one point there were like 13,000 people watching just the queue tracker, and it was just like, okay. And then it came up saying, like, queue's paused, you can't join the queue. And of course, people have joined the queue.
The fun thing is that it tells a story in itself, and that story is of the desires and whims of the British people. They want to be able to see the Queen lying in state because they know that this is an important moment for all of us. It's something historic that we're living through. It's part of the continuation of over 1,000 years of history.
Yeah, but it's also the way in which it's being expressed. It's not disorderly. It's decent. But anyway, so the queue was resumed, of course. Entry to the queue has resumed, we are told, from the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. But the expected queuing time was over 24 hours and overnight temperatures were cold. And so you got some interesting faces in the queue. And I thought that actually the person who distinguished himself the best was footballing star David Beckham.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I didn't really expect it, but he joined the queue. He was there for over 13 hours in total, apparently, and he was just in the queue like everyone else.
Do you not think that this shows how, before the monarchy, in a sense, we're all humbled, that somebody like David Beckham, such a large star, so rich and famous, can join the queue and, as we can see here, be stood with everybody else, shoulder to shoulder with the rest of the masses?
Yeah, I mean, even I know who David Beckham is. He's that famous, and I don't follow football, so if you don't know who everyone knows who David Beckham is. And what was really interesting, he was just totally humble about it. He's wearing like a little flat cap, just totally normal. He didn't have armed guards or anything. He was just stood in the queue with everyone else. It was just a regular dude. Apparently Sharon Osbourne was there as well, but I didn't see any pictures of her. But
there's one.
There we go. There she is.
I'm impressed. Normally, I'm not a fan of Sharon Osbourne,
no, I'm
but
not.
This
but you can see
gives her a step up a little bit for me.
You can see it's like the old sort of Brits, right? Like the British Brits, people who are just,
Well,
proper.
Interestingly on that, the Osbournes quite famously have recently just moved back from America because Ozzy Osbourne himself said, "I don't want to die in America," because he knows he's not got that much time left. So he's feeling the calling of his homeland.
But anyway, going back to David Beckham, I think this is really honourable. He was offered to jump the queue by an MP, and he said no, that would be wrong. In fact, he said, my granddad wouldn't have jumped the queue. Give him. This is like, again, it's weirdly symbolic. I don't know how to describe it, but it's important, that you get well-respected public figures who behave in the right way. You know, he's doing the right thing.
He's setting an example.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a clip from him in the queue, and it's really nice. It's just really wholesome. Let's have a watch.
We all want to be here together. We all want to experience something where we celebrate the amazing life of our Queen. And I think, you know, something like this today is meant to be shared together. So, you know, the fact that we've been here, we're eating Pringles, we're eating sherbet lemons, you know, we're eating sandwiches, having coffee, so donuts as well.
Madam, you didn't think that you'd be in the queue with David Beckham, did you?
No, I didn't, but big respect to him. He's stood with us and he's paid his respects how he wants to.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. And it's just been really good.
And how long have you been in the queue, David?
I think we all got here, 12 hours.
Right, okay. And how's it been on the knees? Because we've seen you sort
Knees
of
are okay, it's the back.
right.
And the feet, but...
But notice how, like, just the working class lady behind him, like, he's a working class lad.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell in his accent, you know, and so he's the same as her. It's just success. You know, is the thing that differentiates them.
It's interesting as well. They've been in the queue 12 hours together. Yeah. That's a lot of time to be able to speak to somebody and get to know them a bit better as well.
Yeah, yeah. And she spoke to him, you know, very familiarly, as if it were. But like David Beckham, his mum was a hairdresser and his dad was a kitchen fitter. Like, you see what I mean? Like they come from the same sort of place. You know, it's just from Hackney back in the 60s when it wasn't like it is now. But it was really nice. If you can go to the next one, you see when he finally gets in there, he, you know, wipes a tear away after the 13 hours waiting. It's honestly really wholesome. Good for him. There was other famous people like Tilda Swinton, an actress who went down again. Like these people are kind of British representatives when they go overseas, right? These people are obviously British. That's the thing. And so it's nice to see them paying their respects. And
especially someone like Tilda Swinton, who's been involved in Hollywood for a long time. It's nice to see at the very least she hasn't become too disconnected from her origins and heritage.
I mean, her father was Sir John Swinton, a major general in the army. So she comes from the upper class, whereas you see, like, David Beckham comes from the lower class. But there are other people there who we know, like Peter Whittle, made an appearance. You can see down the front there.
Oh, yes.
Yep, good for Peter. And I thought that... I watched many hours of the queue from Westminster Hall, people going through and just, you know, paying their respects. And it was really weird because it was relaxing to have on because it's complete silence in the hall. And it's just like the shuffling of people walking through. So it's the sort of quiet stepping in an echoey hall. It actually was very relaxing to have on. But also, the changing of the guard was amazing. So I thought we'd watch a clip of it.
Of course.
Just to see it. So for anyone who's just listening, it's totally formalised. Like, the guards go in behind the ones already standing there. They wait as the other ones march slowly and in a very regimented way to where they're supposed to be. And the whole thing, someone mentioned to me, they were like, it's like a German glockenspiel clock, you know, where it's like, you know, you've got the on a regular time on the hour, things, you know, moving around and then bong and then... But yeah, it's only when everyone's in place, the guy smacks the cane on the floor or the sword on the floor, and the other guys pick up the thing, very slowly and well timed.
It's all very deliberate.
It's incredibly deliberate. They step forward, the other guards move into their place in a second. And they will march out. And I just really like this. Like, this is...
Do you know what this tells me?
Yeah, go on.
This tells me that things are working as they should be. When I see something like this, they're in control, they know what they're there for, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. No, I think that's the right way to frame it. Things are as they should be. But yeah, everyone there, almost there. And then, there we go. And you can see everyone just waiting patiently. the signal, they carry on. I see, as they should be. Unlike Philip Schofield, who decided to skip the queue, which didn't go down well with very many people. And of all people, now the BBC put out an article saying, well, look, he's got an excuse, right? So
there is no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care, the MPs actually did skip the queue, which, okay, fine, they shouldn't have done, but they did. But Philip Schofield isn't an MP. Philip Schofield is
He's a guy.
Yeah, he's a TV broadcaster. There was some outrage, apparently, as the BBC tell us, from some who believe the hosts of ITV's This Morning programme jumped the queue on Friday. Obviously, in comparison to David Beckham queuing for hours. They said they were doing their job as broadcasters and were filming ahead for a piece to be aired after the funeral.
See, something you mentioned was that a queue is almost a sign of civilization. The ability to get many people, all of them strangers, some of them from different status backgrounds as others, someone like Tilda Swinton and David Beckham standing side by side with the average person on the street, without, fights breaking out, without... obviously they've got the police there, but without massive discontent going around. As in other countries, in the continent, a queue would turn into a mob. Whereas in England...
there are the occasions that spring to mind are in India, where, there was some few years ago, a food truck had turned up, and, people just charged this truck, and, 12 people died or something in the stampede. It's like...
Why?
So, why? Yeah, exactly. If you'd all just stood and waited your turn... You would all have gotten food and nobody would have died. It's insufferable.
I mean, this is the unity of the English people, though, isn't it?
It is, but it's also just as you're saying, things being done properly. It's like, look, everyone would have got food, nobody would have died. Everyone got to see the Queen, nobody died. There was everything was as it should be. Things were properly ordered. But of course, anyway, going back to Philip Schofield and I can't remember the name of the woman.
Holly Willoughby?
That's it, Holly Willoughby, yeah. Wearing a mask for some reason. It's like, really, Holly?
You're not going to give the Queen anything, don't worry.
People were not impressed, which I find amusing. Just if we can go to the next one. See, just people memeing all over this. Even the follow back pro-Europe, even those were like, oh, you can't jump the queue.
Well, once again, they're recognising, look, I might not be in support of this, but that's just not how things are done.
Exactly, it's not on. And if you go to the next one, you can see just people started making memes of this. And it's like, oh dear. Philip, this was... Faux pas is definitely how you could describe it. I mean, honestly, right, I really do think that people kind of see queue jumping as an attack on British civilization. It's the attack on civilization itself as a concept. And so...
for one, it's just rude.
Yeah, exactly. It's rude. It's unfair. It's not how things should be ordered. There are loads and loads of reasons. But anyway, let's get to the diversity, because we've seen the British queuing and paying their respects as they should, and then we get to our new friends, such as Adio Adeshine.
Oh, a 19-year-old.
Yeah, who sexually assaulted 2 women in the queue.
He was just training for his gynecology degree,
I
I'm sure.
guess he must have been. Right, so apparently he was arrested, and the allegations are the defendant was part of the queue to see the resting in state of Queen Elizabeth II. His alleged victims are said to have been among the people who are lining the banks of the river, and he exposed himself and touched someone. So he's been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault and 2 counts of breaching a sexual harm prevention order. So this is not the first time he's done this, it seems, right? And the thing is, I know that he wasn't born here because he threw himself into the Thames to try and escape. Who the hell would do that? It's not you don't go into the Thames. That's disgusting.
Why would you do that?
You're just a danger to yourselves.
Why have we not already deported this man?
Well, exactly, because he has to... God only knows.
The lefty human rights lawyers. All of his human rights. I don't care.
But, how to spot a foreigner, they'll willingly dive into the Thames. Anyway, so the next piece of diversity, wonderful, diverse citizen, was a man called Mohammed Khan, who decided to try and charge the Queen's coffin. God knows what he was going to do, but literally within like 2 seconds he'd been taken to the floor, and he'd apparently pushed over a 7-year-old girl who was paying her respects. So what an absolute monster this person is. Like, sorry, what were you planning to do to the Queen's coffin when you got there, mate? And really, you couldn't wait for the 7-year-old to finish paying her respects.
Well, at the very least, as much as we're being colonized, we're being taken over, we're being dominated by the foreigners, at least he couldn't get across the final act of insult, disrespect, and domination. At least as a nation, we can still get behind and say, no, you're not to disrespect the Queen's coffin.
Yeah, he'll be in court today, apparently, although I've seen reports it might be Wednesday. But either way, bring back hanging. Anyway, so just to round off the queue, Sky News felt the need to cover the last person in the queue before the queue closed. Finally,
makes sense.
Yeah, and it was just it was just interesting. And then they interviewed a few other people who were like, I was trying to join the queue, but I just couldn't get out of work, or I couldn't get here in time, whatever it is. And people genuinely lamenting the fact they couldn't join the queue. And it's like, well,
I'm sad I wasn't able to be part of the queue, to be honest.
And so it's like, to any foreigners watching, this is important to British people, and you can see that the queue itself became a big deal.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on Edward the Confessor. You want to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.